All right, everyone, and hello, and welcome back. Our 20th anniversary Monster Hunter Countdown, number 190, Blangonga. First showed up in Monster Hunter DOS, PlayStation 2 game. That was the game with the monkeys. Introduced Ice Element. Ice Element was not in the first generation games, and he was definitely part of that. I think second generation was really like low-key the monkey generation. And I for one, and glad we got it. So this isn't going to look too different. We already had Copper Blangonga. It's a very similar looking armor set. Although you did not get to see this weapon. This is a very curious looking weapon, the Blangonga Insect Glaive. I actually kind of like it. I know most people probably go for Kushala, but I like the way it looks, and it's still fine for ice damage, so that's okay. Insect Glaive is one of those weapons you can kind of go like a little into element if you want. It does hit a lot. Chieftain's Rage Cudgel. It's a hell of a thing. Armor set itself isn't that great. Ice attack is like whatever with how good talismans are for giving element. Quick Sheath, Constitution +1. I had a Deca win Weakness Exploit and Speed Sharp, and Weakness Exploit is going to be pretty good on him. You can see here, basically, all of his hit zones are at least 45%, so his whole body does trigger Weakness Exploit. Otherwise, I mean, fire goes really hard, as you would kind of expect. Interesting note, if you wanted to break his fangs in the second-gen games, you had to use fire. There were a number of fire-only, or, well, element-only breaks. It wasn't exclusively fire. Elder Dragons with Dragon, which we'll talk about maybe in a later episode. Status-wise, nothing really stands out, you know? I mean, he's weaker to sleep and stun than poison and para, but you're probably not going to be using those. Not unless you're in a group, in which case, use whatever you want. So he's a really fun monster. I think I always enjoy fighting him. I don't know if there's ever a time where I'm like, oh, I don't like it. But in Generations Ultimate, you really do get the sense like they wanted him to feel like something that was removing your ability to move, primarily through tremor. You know, if you went out of your way to get tremor resistance on this guy, there would be a number of moves that would be a little bit easier to deal with. Other interesting tidbit, I think he's the only monster. I don't know if Copper Blangonga does it. He's the only monster in the game that will actively remove paintballs. So you just saw him like rubbing on his face a little bit. He will actually clear off the paintball. And so you'll need to reapply it. Very interesting. I tell you, man, they didn't always have the most interesting movesets in Ye Olden games, but they were cooking when they were giving them like these weird accessory sort of abilities. I guess he wouldn't be able to remove the paintball in Monster Hunter Rise or in Monster Hunter World, unfortunately. But you know, that's just how it goes. Triple up here helping us out quite a bit, so we don't have to really worry about his roar. None of that happens much, but you will notice he will periodically do a move that will actually summon Blongos to aid him. Obviously, they are not scary on their own, but, you know, throwing snowballs at you, hitting you, tripping you, stuff like that. I feel like they're a little bit more of a menace sometimes than the normal prey. Only because sometimes they take a little bit more damage, and they've got, you know, projectiles, unless you're talking about, like, I don't know, I'll pray. Speaking of, he can turn you into a snowball. Cleansers are nice to have. Again, I feel like the focus was remove the player's agency. And by the way, I did not know out of him hopping, he could just come at you and haul ass like that. That is actually very impressive. How much ground he can gain in such a short period of time. So it's not that Adept is always the best style, but for some monsters, man, in Generations Ultimate, you can really get the sense like, as long as you can get your timing down, you get the feeling of like Ye Modern Monster Hunter, even though it is technically a celebration of the classic titles. The Geodrome shows up in this quest. He can be a little bit of a menace, just because he's, like, distracting. You know, I like that when you've got weak monsters that invade stronger monster quests. Not that Blangonga is that strong. Or strong monsters that invade weaker monster quests. You know, there's that For You you know, 140 Apex Rajang that will sometimes show up for like Celtis and stuff. I don't know. I think he shows up in some of the early easy missions. I love that. You know, Devil Joe with Kuropeko. All that stuff I think is great. I wish we had more of it. That's a neat little thing there that he'll just like, almost like swipe you out of the air. Just that quick little punch. Not a lot of damage, but you know. Gets you knocked out of your combo. You have to stop dealing damage. I didn't have a fire bug, so even though I usually love Bug Majeur, I've switched over to Extract Hunter on this because I don't think my ice bug would be doing that much damage to him. If I had a compatible fire bug, though, we would be going crazy. By the way, Tail has a break. Face also has a break. You do not need Element in Generations Ultimate to break the face. We're going to be breaking it shortly, you'll see. I think the bug actually does get the break. So even though I was talking down about the bug, he's out there. Yeah, but it's nice. His entire body is so weak. Obviously, you know, the tail or the head are better hit zones. But you don't ever have to really feel particularly obligated to completely change your positioning if you are hitting just his body. See, there we go. Shiny dropped. You can tell his fang is broken. His right fang is, or his left fang is broken. So I like monkeys. I like bugs. My list would probably have entirely monkeys and bugs if I were to have my own exclusive 20th anniversary countdown. They're just all so good. Monkeys almost more than bugs, honestly. It's nice because like their hit zones are good, but they're not like 80% level good with like 30% elemental weakness. That just sometimes feels like it gets a little silly. You almost feel like there's a little bit of an inspiration. You know, they were almost like somebody kind of took the design of Blangonga and in the future kind of relegated it to Barryoff, just in the rhythm sense. You know, and that usually you wait for the attack and then the counter attack. You don't normally have a huge gap otherwise. It's a pretty decent wake-up hit. That final hit of Tornado Slash I think is still pretty good in this game. Just as Blangonga is a pretty good fight in this game. Love the little monkey swipe as they die too. Blangonga Pelt Plus, the hardened pelt of a Blangonga. The needle-like hairs are prized material. Blangonga Fur, the tough fur of a Blangonga is harder than the depths of winter. Leather Beast Pelt, the fine, tough skin of a Blangonga troop leader displays its authority and might. Blangonga Lash, the tail of this Blangonga is silkier to the touch than fresh powdered snow. Blangonga Hardfang, a Blangonga tooth that looks sharp enough to use as a skewer for cooking with. Okay, so that's it for Blangonga. Great fight. I mean, sometimes pretty good gear. Like, I know some of his weapons actually stand out in GU. Armor, not so much. But, hey, I mean, it is what it is. Up next, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak Pyre Rachna Kadaki. Kind of an improvement off of normal Rachna Kadaki. You'll see the hit zones are at least a little bit more tolerable. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you tomorrow. I love you. Goodbye.